Hello, welcome to South Florida Bible College. My name is Jessica. I am a designated school official here at SFBC, and we're very excited to have you guys on board. Our very diverse and very multicultural student body. Um, Today, we're going to be going over understanding your immigration status as an international student. Just an interesting fact to start off, Open Doors is an international education organization that keeps track of international education here in the US, both of students that come in and American students that go overseas to study. And so just from 2023 to 2024, there were a little over a million students, international students, that enrolled in US higher education institutions and were on OPT, optional practical training. So I share that just to give you guys a glimpse of hope in terms of the massive number of opportunities available to international students to get into the workforce after they've completed their program. Next, what is ISSD? ISSD is the International Student Services Department, and we are the first point of contact for international students here at the Bible College. We focus on being student specific. So all of the advising that we do are geared directly to F1 students so that we can share information on immigration policies, legal issues, and then also be able to advise on personal or cultural issues that a student may be facing. We also focus on gearing the student towards the right campus resource. And so there's a few different resources that are available to students that you can take advantage of, such as counseling, the writing lab, English writing lab, student organizations. We have a few services that are available through the chaplaincy program. And so it's an amazing way for students to get plugged into services that we already offer here on campus. We also focus on communication to F1 students. So mostly everything that comes from ISSD will be notified to the students via email or the ISSD Populi group that you can be a part of. And we also have the ISSD website. And lastly, we are very excited about hosting a few different events throughout the fall and spring semesters, as well as workshops full of very important information for F1 students. And so stay tuned on the Populi dashboard for upcoming events. How do you come in contact with ISSD? The first place I would suggest is going to the ISSD website because there's a wealth of information. On there, you can schedule an appointment and to meet either in person here for advising or a virtual meeting. And you can also reach out through email or a phone call. So like I said, you can go on the website, click on appointment, and it'll guide you towards the booking page, and you can choose a day or a time that works for you. So what are the most important immigration regulations for you to keep in mind? First off, be proactive. Do your due diligence. So go after the solution, the answer to the question that you have. The first point of contact will always be ISSD, and we can guide you to the right person or the right place for you to get the solution or the answer that you need. But the most important thing is that you be proactive about what you need. Take ownership of your status. So don't wait for ISSD to reach out to you or for something to happen, someone to reach out to you for you to know what's going on with your status, especially with changing regulations when it comes to US government policy. So take ownership of that. If you have a question, if you have a doubt, if you hear something from somewhere and you're unsure if that applies to you, or if that will affect you, come to ISSD first and we can guide you to the right place of information. Thirdly, don't assume anything. Check in with us first. So when you hear something, don't just assume that it's correct or that applies to you. always come to us first, ask us. Nothing is a small matter or, silly. We take everything into consideration, and we'll always guide you to the right place of information so that you can make sure that you are maintaining your status and you're doing what you need to do. Stay informed. Watch for emails from ISSD or updates in the ISSD Populi group. We're always going to be very proactive about letting students know what's next, what they need to be doing. But you also need to be on top of your email and making sure that you're seeing all of the notifications that we send out. And lastly, we also use our ISSD website as a resource. So there's so much information there from the moment you get your status to the moment that you graduate. Everything is on there as far as what you need to do in order to make sure that your F1 status maintains valid. Throughout your time here at SFBC, there might be a need for you to fill out a form based on an update that you need to have on your I-20, or you need to request a letter from the DSO, or you need to extend your I-20. There's just several things. So you can go on the ISSD website and click on eForms, and it'll guide you through all the different types of requests that you can submit for ISSD to service you. And now, so since you're as a new incoming student, be it that you're transferring into SFBC, so you already have F1 status, but you're just transferring in from another school, you changed your education level, or you're a completely new student, you must check in using the immigration check-in form in Populi. So as part of the immigration check-in, you're going to need to complete the new International Student Information session, which this video is a part of those sessions, the immigration quiz, and the immigration check-in form. In the form, you're going to upload your copy of your valid passport, copy of your S1 visa, or if you had the change of status approval notice, it's going to be that green form, a copy of your I-94, your I-20 form, and also provide your local U.S. address and U.S. phone number. So let's go over a few different elements of your immigration documents that you need to keep an eye on. The first thing will be your I-20. And the I-20, you're going to notice on the top left corner of the first page where it says SEVIS ID, it's going to have a series of numbers that starts with an N. That is the SEVIS ID number. So whenever ISSD asks that of you in a form or in any other place outside of the school, that's the number that you're going to provide. Always make sure that your last name, your first name, and your date of birth are correct on your I-20. And then on the third section, you're going to see your program information. So make sure that the education level and that the major is correct. Just note that sometimes the major one name is going to be a little different than what SFBC constitutes as your major name. Most of the time it's going to be the same. And then always make sure that your program start and end date are valid, meaning that you're within that time. If you find that you're coming close to the program end date and you still need more time to complete your program, then reach out to ISSD so that we can verify that and make adjustments. On page 2 of your I-20, you're going to see a section where it says travel endorsement. So this is mainly applicable for students that have the F1 visa stamped on their passport and they're able to leave the US and come back under the F1 status. In order to come back into the US with your F1 status, you're going to show your I-20 and they're going to look for the DSO signature on this part. The signature is valid for 1 year. So before you travel, just make sure you come here and get the signature so that you don't run into any problems. The next thing we're going to go over is the F1 visa or the change of status approval notice. So if you have the visa stamped on your passport, you're going to always just keep check on the expiration date. Just note that even if, let's say you're studying and your expiration date passes, so you let the visa expire, as long as you maintain your I-20 valid, you don't need to leave the US if your F1 visa is expired. So you can stay in the US as an F1 student if your I-20 is valid, even if the F1 visa on your stamp is expired. That just means, though, if you were to leave the US with your F1 visa expired, you would need to obtain a new F1 visa in order to come back in under the F1 status. That's all that means. If you had your change of status adjusted here in the US, then you should have this greenish piece of paper. And on the bottom is where you're gonna see the F1 status reflected. And the length of time should mark D/S, which just means duration of status. So as long as you keep your I-20 active, you're in F1 status. And this form actually acts as your new I-94. And one thing I always want to stress is that you must always have a valid passport. So never let your passport expire, and this applies for you and your dependents. And lastly, your I-94. So if you are able to travel outside of the US and come back in with the F1 status, then you're gonna print a new and updated I-94 every time you come back into the US, because it's gonna show the date that you came in and that the class of admission F1. If you did the adjustment of status here in the US, then you're always gonna use that green piece of paper as your I-94. So just let's go over a few different policies and terms that apply to F1 students. The first one is end of program. So once you complete your program and you graduate, F1 students get a 60-day grace period in order to decide what they're going to do next. So you can either enroll in a new program here at SFBC, you can transfer your I-20 out to another school, or return home. Let's say that in the middle of a program, you decide to withdraw and you're going to go back home in order to handle a few things. You must request an authorized early withdrawal with ISSD, so that you have 15 days from the moment your I-20 is terminated to prepare to leave the country. And so this must be authorized by SSD first, so that you have that 15-day grace period in order to get your things together, just make the adjustments that you need to do in order to depart the US. So never withdraw from a course or a program without prior authorization from ISSD. Here's a few enrollment guidelines for international students and the amount of classes that they need to be registered in each semester. I'm going to mainly go over fall and spring. So if you're a language training student and you're enrolled in our English or Academic Purposes program, you will be completing 18 clock hours per week. That is called a full-time status for language training. For a college program, so the undergraduate, graduate, and doctoral, you need to maintain a minimum of 12 credits for undergraduates. Out of those 12 credits, 3 can be online. For graduate students, it's a total of 9 credits that's full-time status, and 3 of those 9 can be online, and then doctoral is 6 credits per semester, and 3 of those 6 can be online. Now, I will be talking a little bit about exceptions to this in the next few slides, so I'm not going to go over it in detail right now. So online courses, like I mentioned, you only 3 credits out of the total total course load can be online, which 3 credits equals 1 class. So for language training, there is no online component allowed for the full-time status, so everything needs to be in person. But for undergraduate, graduate, and doctoral, like I said, 1 out of the total course load, so 3 credits out of the total course load can be online. Now let's talk about the exceptions to the full-time course load. The three exceptions that are allowed per SEVIS regulations are for medical conditions. So if you're facing a medical condition and you need to drop the full-time course load, you would, consult with ISSD first, and then submit the documentation that's required in order to drop a load for that term or for however long the doctor recommends. Um, the next two are completion of study. So let's say you're in your last semester as a college student and you only have 2 or 3 classes, depending on what education level you are. But let's say you only have 1 class left to complete. That means that you would fall under an exception to only enroll for that 1 class for that semester. Or if you're facing academic difficulties, so usually this is applied only in the first semester of study, meaning you were placed in the wrong level, and you need to drop like in the middle of the semester, um, or you're facing you're having just struggling, having a hard time academically, you would come to ISSD first. We would talk through what your difficulties are and if you qualify for an exception for the course load in that semester. Let's talk about academic dismissal. So, when your GPA as a college student falls below the requirement for the semester, you're going to receive a few warnings from the registrar's office before being officially dismissed from the college. So, there is a minimum of 2.0 that needs to be maintained in the college in order to stay good, to not have any probations or anything applied to your transcript. So if you are officially dismissed from SFBC because of an academic reason, you will be out of status. So what that means for international students is that you'll lose your F1 status, and usually we'll consult with the student before it even gets to that point to see what the next step would be so that that doesn't happen. So usually, and then when you do, let's say that you do receive the notice of an academic dismissal and you have the option of appealing that with the board, if that is not approved, then that's when your I-20 would be terminated because of a dismissal from the college, and we would discuss what your next options would be as far as either applying for reinstatement or returning to your home country. If you have the F1 visa stamped on your passport, you're going to need a valid passport up to 6 months in the future, the valid F1 stamp, and your I-20 with the DSO travel signature on page 2 in order to leave and re-enter into the US as an F1 student. It can happen if your documents are not correct, that CBP, the immigration officers at the airport, are going to issue you an I-515A form. So if you do receive that, once you go through immigration, immediately contact us so that we can submit the correct documentation for them to remedy that form. Now, on-campus employment. For on-campus employment, students are eligible to be hired to work on campus up to 30 days before the program start date. So this is not something that you need to send a request through USCIS. You can start working on campus as long as you are maintaining, good grades, you're maintaining your status, and you meet the qualifications for that position. Excuse me. And so a student must be maintaining valid F1 status. You must be in an active program here at SFBC. There is a limit of 20 hours per week in the fall and spring semesters. So when school's in session, 20 hours per week. But when school is on break, meaning winter break, summer break, you can work 21 hours or more. Off-campus employment is a little differently because it doesn't apply to EAP students, so it's only for college level and up. And the first one I want to talk about is CPT, curricular practical training. So if you have an internship or a practicum as part of your degree program, you're going to need to apply for CPT during the semester that you do your internship or your practicum. And this does not require an application to USCIS. It just needs to be approved with the DSO first before you start working in your internship or your practicum. It's approved one semester at a time as well, if you have more than one semester that requires an internship. OPT, optional practical training, is an application that you request with USCIS for employment authorization, and you can complete OPT either before you graduate or after you graduate. So the requirement is that whatever position you acquire is directly related to your program of study. And once you get to that point of deciding to apply for OPT, we will have several workshops that you can be a part of to get more information, or you can schedule a one-on-one appointment for me to explain exactly how to apply and how you can qualify for OPT. But you must have been active as an F1 student for 1 year before applying for OPT. And these are the top 5 international student rules to live by. So the first one, don't let your I-20 expire. Like I said, if you see that you're getting close to your program end date, reach out to us and we need to make sure we correct that. Don't work on or off campus without ISSD authorization. Always seek authorization from ISSD for CPT when enrolling in an internship, a co-op, or a practicum, whether it's paid or unpaid. And always enroll full-time during fall and spring semesters. Like I said, undergrad is 12, graduate is 9, and doctoral is 6. And don't enroll in more than 3 credits online toward your full-time enrollment. Now, if you fail to maintain your status, this is usually how it works, right? So these are the actions that would cause you to fail to maintain your status. Remaining in the US longer than you're authorized to do so, meaning let's say you're in your grace period, the 60-day grace period, and you stay longer than the grace period without making some kind of action that would put you out of status. Failing to meet requirements or violating the terms of F1 status, studying part-time, so enrolling in less than what's required, or taking too many online classes, engaging in unauthorized employment, or failing to complete your program. So meaning you withdraw without getting authorization from ISSD first. The consequences from those actions would be like a denial for your CPT authorization or for OPT by USCIS, denial of employment on campus, termination of your SEVIS record, difficulty obtaining a new visa or re-entering into the US, or possible deportation. So we want to avoid all of these consequences by reaching out to ISSD if you have any questions. These are the 2 ways for you to restart or regain your F1 status should your I-20 be terminated. The first one is called reinstatement. Reinstatement is where you work with an immigration attorney to submit an application to USCIS, and meantime, you continue to take classes and maintain your status. So on SEVIS, your I-20 is going to show as terminated, but while you have submitted an application to reinstate your F1 status, you still need to take classes and maintain your status while you wait for approval from USCIS. And there's not a guarantee that it's going to be approved or denied as well from USCIS. The second way is to restart your F1 status, meaning you're going to leave the US and you're going to obtain a new I-20, either from SFBC or from a new school, and you're going to apply for the F1 visa in your home country, should wherever it is. If you already have the F1 visa, then you're just going to go back to your home country and use the new I-20 to come back into the United States. Okay, so how do you apply for your driver's license, and also do you need to file for taxes? This is one of the most common questions that we get. For your driver's license, just please keep in mind that your I-20 needs to be active for you to get your license. So usually in the first 3 weeks of each semester, we do something called we register the I-20s and SEVIS. And in your first semester here at SFBC, you will be your I-20 will be registered, and your I-20 will change from in saying either transfer or change of education level or initial into something called continued attendance. That just means that your I-20 has been made active, and you can only apply for benefits like driver's license, or a social security number should you be hired on campus after your I-20 is active. And this only happens in the third week, usually in the third week of the semester. You can scan this QR code to get more information on the steps on how to apply for a driver's license, including the documentation you need to show and all of that. And yes, so F1 students do need to either file for taxes should they receive income through one of the authorized ways, right, on campus, or the authorized off-campus employments, or the Form 8843, which is a statement showing that you're here in the U.S. as an F1 student. So each year, you either need to file only the Form 8843 if you didn't make any income, or the 8843 plus the Form 1040NR if you also made income for that specific tax year. Fun. So we're in South Florida, and we do go through the hurricane season. So if you're new to this, in terms of you've never gone through a hurricane, it could seem very scary and very something that you don't know how to prepare for. So this is something that we've put together. If you scan the QR code, you can check out emergency tips for F1 students on preparing for emergency situations. But if you talk to any Floridian or people who have been here for a very long time, there's a standard way to prepare for hurricanes. People who have gone through the destruction that happens sometimes in houses or in the streets. You can prepare for it ahead of time without going through the panic that sometimes you see on TV when these things happen. Always stay attentive for Populi alerts. So we're always going to be letting you know when something, if a hurricane is coming towards our area, if we're going to stay open, if we're going to close, what's going to happen. So always stay alert with the alerts on Populi. ISSD events. So we will be posting on the ISSD Populi group and the website whenever we have events or workshops. And just to give you an overview, we're going to be going over employment and training opportunities, a few different question and answer sessions, and also a series for networking for international students, or just for students who are ready to go into the marketplace and how to prepare for that. And also in the fall semester, we have the International Student Day, which is part of International Education Week in November. So stay attentive on that because we have a lot of fun things planned. And that's the end of the presentation. ISSD is always here for you. So if you have any questions, feel free to schedule an appointment or reach out to us through email or phone call. Welcome again to South Florida Bible College, and we will see you soon.